Coming back home now, former President Kgalema Motlanthe has addressed the Gauteng Youth Expo in Johannesburg earlier today.
The expo focuses on getting young people involved in technology that will help them to be able to take part in the digitally driven economy. The program is called AI in Africa, a series of boot camps for young people aged between 15 and 18 years, targeting those from historically disadvantaged communities.
Now, dial forward to 2019, when we speak of the fourth industrial revolution and smart devices. You were informed here that even banks are shutting down their branches because the nature of banking system has changed, because now people do e-banking and stuff like that. So what I want you to think about is, and how to understand the fourth industrial revolution, is that what we're really talking about is the story of tools. This is this human story of tools. Human beings have always found it necessary to fashion tools so that their limitations as human beings can be augmented upon by tools. And that is why today we speak of smart devices. These are tools. These are tools created to make human life better. Not to take away jobs. Of course, it will disrupt the manner in which we used to, do things. But it is actually, essentially, the essence of it is to improve quality of life of human beings, so that you are no longer subjected to the drudgery of labor. Because now, if you're a farmer, in the olden days, 5 years ago, if you had a farm, you would literally have to wake up early in the morning, get into your bakkie, and drive around to check that the periphery fence of your farm is still intact, there are no holes, and so on. Today, a farmer doesn't have to do that. They sit at home and using smart devices, the drone goes around to check.
June is Youth Month in South Africa, and on June the 16th each year, Youth Day is commemorated. Yesterday, a National Youth Day event in Polokwane, Limpopo was led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, where he spoke about the many struggles that the country's youth are facing, chief of which is the issue of massive unemployment.
We are crafting and building a number of initiatives and interventions, and we are doing so because we are very much alive to the fact that youth unemployment is indeed a national crisis, and we therefore call on all our social partners, business, government, our state-owned enterprises, our trade unions, that we should all work together to address the issue of youth unemployment. Our success as a nation in the years to come depends on us making more room for the youth of this country.
Well, that was President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking at a Youth Day event in Polokwane yesterday. So just how bad is the national crisis regarding youth joblessness? Well, the latest official employment statistics released by StatsSA last month indicated that unemployment is rising and has reached 27.6% for the first quarter of 2019. What's hidden in those figures, though, is the alarming burden of unemployment is concentrated amongst the youth aged between 15 and 34, which accounts for 63.4% of the total number of unemployed persons. Well, we're asking the questions now, can anything be done to turn the tide? Academic and career specialist at Boston City Campus and Business College, Dr. Linda Meyer joins me now to give us some clues. Thanks so much for joining us. Great to have you on the program once again.
Thank you.
All right, so the President spoke about it yesterday. When we got the unemployment figures in May, they were quite shocking at the time. But I guess, like I've just said in the intro, you know, to say 27.6% doesn't really tell the story, does it?
No, so if we tell the story is that we have 16.3 million people working in South Africa and 6.2 million people that are not working, that are seeking employment. So obviously, in terms of the different categories of age groupings, it tells us a very clear picture of what it is that we're facing.
All right, well, you talk about age groupings. Let's take a look at this graph, and it tells us, I think, a few things. But so the statistics are there, 15 to 24. I mean, they're quite young, so a lot of these have just left school and perhaps have got their first tertiary qualification. But they are the most unemployed, and if you're my age group, 35 to 36, or a little bit older, we're the least unemployed. So what is this telling us about, especially those that have got less than matric, have got matric, graduates and other tertiary? What's all this graph telling us?
So the most important thing that the graph tells us as we get older is that the age group between 35 and 65 is taking over the jobs. So the last category is not 35 to 36,
it's 35
to 65.
Right.
So in the last graph, what it is telling us is that the older you get, the more experience you have, and the more your ability to get employed is evident.
Right.
But what it also tells us is that older people are now taking the entry-level jobs away from individuals
Even
that
entry level.
So we call that, obviously, in terms of the structural unemployment area, where people that are now being retrenched, because the economy needs to grow between 5 and 6%, it's growing at less than 1%, so we can't absorb the new market entrants. So an additional exclusionary mechanism now is that people that are older are taking these entry-level positions and precluding youth from entering the job market.
Are they not overqualified by definition?
Well, people are willing to take, employers take whatever they can. They want a bang for their buck. So if they can get somebody with experience and qualifications that's willing to work for that money, they're going to take it, because it's a value add to their business.
So let's take a look at the ones with qualifications. So if you've got less than matric, 60% of you, basically you're going to be the one that struggles the most to get employed, whatever age group that you're in, right? And if you've got other tertiary, it's still quite high, but it's geared towards the young people again.
The TVET college qualifications. So in terms of so let's look at the matric level, right? So matric doesn't guarantee you a job at all. But you can see through the age groupings, as they get older and they start gaining experience, it becomes less important as it goes through the different
and that experience is what counts then? Experience
is critical. So often qualifications is a way to get into the door, but without experience you cannot move forward. If we look at the people that are in other tertiary, so the TVET colleges, we can see the same thing. As they start getting experience, there's a greater chance of employment for them. And you need to get a qualification, you need to get a degree. You can see that only 4% of people with degrees that are over 35 are sitting in the unemployment cycle. And they are unemployed for much less periods when they do get retrenched or lose their positions.
So what can we do? Because the President spoke about it yesterday, that experience seems to be the biggest barrier for especially people that have got some kind of qualification, they still struggle because they don't have experience. What needs to happen to change this tide? First of all, you've got to get some kind of qualification, it seems. And then what?
So government is doing some structural changes. They've put new tax incentives in place in the BEE codes. Now companies can get better advantages if they take learnerships, internships, and also pay for individuals to study. So what can be done is that we need to have a more economically viable environment for individuals to be in. We need to grow the economy. We need to make sure that the right skill sets are within the individuals that are going to university. It doesn't help that you come out with a degree and you're still unemployable. You don't have IT skills, you're not geared for the fourth industrial revolution, you're not geared for what the market demands are. I don't know if you know, Peter, that 65% of jobs that exist now will not exist in the next 12 to 15 years.
Wow.
So somebody that's in grade 1 now, it's impossible to predict what your children will be studying. You see now when you want to go to the doctor, you do it via Skype. Legal services are online. So the world is changing and we need to gear and analyze very critically what it is that we,
from
what skills we transcend.
What you're saying is that the education system that we have right now is not fit for purpose, because actually by the time someone gets through matric from grade 1 now, what we've been teaching them is based on a world that's disappearing.
It is a world that's disappearing, and we need to keep abreast of the developments and make sure that those skills are constantly revised into the curriculum and the syllabi. And the knowledge, because the knowledge world that we live in changes daily. There's something called Moore's Law that says that every 18 months the information that we have doubles, and 90% of the information that we have today is information that was generated in the last 5 years. So the world we see and the old school resolutions and solutions that we look for are not going to work in the modern economy.
All right, so you run a business school and college. How are you working with industry, for example, so that you're making sure that you're teaching what is needed out there, and that I'm not coming through the school, getting capped, getting a qualification, and it's worthless?
So what we do is we work very closely with industry in the design of our qualifications. We have constant reviews. IT is a prerequisite in all of our qualifications, and we also have a very good work integrated learning component. And then also we guarantee our students that have studied 3 years or longer that we will help them get a job, a learnership, an internship, or a job, or we will pay for their postgraduate studies or give them 50,000 Rand. We're putting our money where our mouth is to say we stand by the qualifications, because we know that from market absorption that it is evolving around what it is that people need. So
you're quite confident that if you study the right things at the right institutions that are giving you the right skills, that you will get a job at the end of that process?
You will get a job, because remember, it is not that the South African economy doesn't have specific requirements and jobs that are standing vacant. Management skills, IT skills, these things, the fourth industrial revolution skills, we cannot fill those positions fast enough. People are standing in queue waiting for those students. But it's important that we don't see higher education as an extended unemployment scheme, where we just think that we're going to put somebody into an institution for 3 years or 5 years so that they're not at the end of it going to be economically active. It is not assisting our economy to grow, but where those positions pose opportunities, we need to make sure that those skill sets are developed and ready for market and fit for purpose.
Right, so what you're saying is, and we need to wrap up now, but what you're saying is that if you're studying something right now, if IT isn't part of that curriculum, then you're already on a perilous path. What typically are IT studies now that must be a minimum in each qualification?
Well, the minimum is obviously the computer packages, systems developments, just basic coding. And if you don't have money, as I always say, there are these free, massive online open courses through Harvard, Oxford. You know, it's called Harvard X, edX. Go online, do these courses, get your CV, skills ready. Even if you're employed right now, you should be doing 3 or 4 MOOCs, because they have a range of, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's journalism, whether it's marketing. Make sure that your skills are fit for purpose and current. It doesn't have to cost you anything, but you need to invest the time to ensure that you are marketable and that you are employable at the end of the day.
All right, so if you're young, the key takeaways for this is you've got to get qualifications. Because the more qualifications that you have, the higher your chances of getting employed. But don't just get any qualifications, get qualifications that are required and that are being reviewed all the time for the work environment that you're going to face when you leave.
Absolutely. And volunteer and take any position, even if you think it's beneath you, take anything to get experience so that you can put that on your CV and an employer can see that you're willing to go the extra mile and contribute to their organization. All
right, Dr. Linda Meyer, we're going to have to leave it there, but I think we're going to have more chats soon. Thanks so much indeed for your insights today.
Thank you.
All right, so I hope that helps somebody out there thinking about solving this unemployment riddle. The President spoke at length about this experience story. Find ways. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and after that, business with Colin.